Yesterday at 7:35 Italian time, unfortunately, Pope Francis passed away, and we're all saddened by this news, especially Catholics like me. Today, we're going to talk about Pope Francis, his legacy, and what he did. I don't know much about him, frankly, but we will talk broadly what he did. And I also want to talk about the next Pope. Who is it going to be? Who I support and the reasons for it. Guys, Pope Francis died, and that's a sad thing, of course. He was a great man, irrespective of what you think about his ideas, which I don't really like, but we will get into that. But irrespective of that, he was a very great, humble man, and he always cared about the marginalized and those whom had not been blessed by God with fortune, let's just say it like that. So he was indeed a great man, and he had support from certain sides of the Catholic fan base, but inversely and concurrently, he wasn't very liked by conservatives especially, and I was not a very big fan of his, let's just say it like that. I don't think the Catholic Church was very represented. I do believe he wasn't an extraordinary pope, but at the same time, I don't think it was super bad either. But let's just talk about Pope Francis for a second. He was elected in March 2013. I think it was the 12th, or probably it was the 13th of March. And his term, I'm not going to call it term, but it's the wrong word. But he spent more than 12 years as the Pope, and we saw him until the very last days of his life, because his last appearance was when he rode through St. Peter's Square less than one day before his death. I think it must have been like 1 p.m., maybe 12 p.m., somewhere around that, and he rode through St. Peter's Square maybe 17, 18 hours before his death. He was severely ill, and after surviving the 1 month he spent in hospital, they told him to stay away, to be isolated for 2 months, but he didn't follow what the doctors told him, because he didn't want to do that, and that's very admirable in my opinion. But unfortunately he died. That's a very big shame. And when everyone dies, guys, I don't really like being happy for someone's death. There are some people who I hate, or I will rephrase that one, because I don't hate anyone, frankly. But there are some people who I despise. I'm talking about world leaders. But I think being happy for someone's death is wrong. As a principle, I think it's wrong, frankly. Even if it's the worst person you can think of, Some people hate one, some people hate the other. I don't think it's correct to be happy for someone's death. Frankly, I don't think it is. But I really dislike seeing people happy for Pope Francis' death. What happens now? So now there is going to be an election, and the cardinals will choose 110 out of the 136. Will choose who's going to be the next pope. We shall see. And I'll tell you who I support. You have already seen it from the thumbnail and the title, probably. I think the best option right now is Cardinal Robert Sarah. And he's African, he's from Ethiopia, he's black. So that's a little bit strange coming from me, because I'm known for... People consider me right-wing. I consider myself independent. I'm an independent thinker. I'm a free mind. That's the way I like to label me. So I don't label myself as right-wing, left-wing, center, conservative, progressive. I don't label myself as any of those things. I support Cardinal Robert Sarah because he's got clear ideas, he's got a good vision, and because he's based. He's not afraid of telling things the way they are, and that's why I support him, mainly. That's the main reason. And although he's black, which is something that probably some whites would not like, I'd rather have a black pope with great ideals and conservative ideals. I'm talking about conservative now. Then a white pope who's quote unquote woke. I'm not saying Pope Francis was woke, but I'm sure conservatives didn't like him that much because he was progressive. So my message to conservatives is the following: would you rather have a black conservative pope or a white progressive pope? And if you are conservative and say that you would rather have a white woke pope, you're stupid. Frankly, let's just be honest. Because, I understand you'd like to have a white pope, but if there ain't no white pope better than this black pope, then we should support the black pope. Now, let's talk about the cardinals for a second. I have seen a chart, which I think is wrong, I don't think it is true, that highlights the fact that most of the cardinals are conservatives. I doubt that, because Pope Francis elected 80% of them. So they must be somewhat similar to him. I doubt that he would let all of those conservatives in. I doubt it. So I think that the cardinals are mostly progressive, or they're not as conservative as they say. I read an article a few months ago saying that there are some conservatives and some progressives that could be elected pope, like Cardinal Parolin, one of them. He was one of them. There is also one from the Philippines. There are two Africans, mainly Robert Sarah. But I have heard that there is a lot of support from the conservatives who didn't like Pope Francis for Robert Sarah. So he could have unanimous support from those cardinals potentially. And that would be great, because from my understanding, the progressives are divided. Like, they have more than one option. On the other hand, the conservatives mainly support Robert Sarah. So for him to win, maybe he's going to have full and unanimous support from the conservatives. And since the progressives will be split, he will emerge as the winner. But we shall see. It's a complex situation. We don't know who's going to be elected. I'm just speculating. But I hope Cardinal Sarah will be the man, and I am supporting him. Let me know who you support. I support him wholeheartedly. I think he would be a very great pope. It would be strange to see a black man as pope, but I think it would be a good. I certainly prefer him to the other options, frankly, from what I've heard. Now, with regard to Pope Francis, his most iconic moment, probably. I didn't follow him that much, but I remember during COVID, when it was Easter in 2020, and Italy and Rome were all locked down completely, and he basically walked in St. Peter's Square all by himself. That was a very touching and big moment. You remember him walking by himself and then giving his speech, not his speech, but reading what he had to read. That was a big moment, maybe the most iconic moment of his papacy, maybe. And that was a big moment during COVID. Unfortunately, after that, his health got worse. In the last few years of his life, he was walking on a wheelchair because he had problems with his knee. You can see from his face that he started to get fatter, always, because like 5 years ago, he wasn't that fat. But the last pictures of him, he was really fat. Like, of course, because when you're in a wheelchair, you don't stand up, and you consume fewer calories and you burn less fat, and that's a big problem. So his health started to get worse. He was hospitalized at the beginning of this year, and now he died. He had a stroke. At 6 a.m. everything began, from my understanding, and then he had a heart attack and he died after that. So this is the way he died. But certainly that moment during COVID was historic. But I think he was a good man, a great person, humble guy, certainly way better person than I ever will be. And huge props to him for that. No one's going to take that away from him. So this is my opinion on Pope Francis. I hope that he's now with the Father. I hope that he's now resting in peace as he deserves. And I hope that the next Pope will be, as I said, Robert Sarah. He's the best option we've got. And I think he'd really be a great Pope. So thank you very much. See you the next time, and let me know who you support in this Pope election. Let's just call it like that. And from my understanding, I think that we're gonna have the next Pope maybe within 40 days, even maybe a little bit less than that. We shall see. But let's hope that Robert Sarah will be the Pope. It's gonna be interesting. Let's just see. That's who I support. Hopefully, will be the Pope. If he's not, we will still respect the other Pope, and hopefully, it's gonna be a great Pope. It's gonna be strong, a little bit like John Paul II. It was extraordinary, but I think it's gonna be difficult to get to that level. But maybe the next Pope is gonna be even better than John Paul II. So see you soon. This was a different video from usual, a shorter one because I didn't have much to say. See you soon. Thank you all for the support, and see you the next time. Bye bye.